All right. Yay, yay. Here we are. Happy Lunasa. Happy end of summer, end of winter. Imbolc if you're in the southern hemisphere, if you follow the wheel that way. Um, Yay. Happy Llamas if that's what you celebrate. Happy whatever. Happy Saturday if you're here live. Happy whatever. Um, all these things. You, of course, don't need to know anything about the Celtic wheel or be interested in the Celtic wheel to do this work, really. um, uh, all right, a few housekeeping things before we dive in. Obviously, this is a long call, whether you're on the replay or live. And it's not like a formal classroom, right? So like you don't need to sit still. You don't need to do it in any way except how you need to do it. So I've got snacks beside me in case I get hungry. It's like I may eat. You can eat. You can go to the bathroom whenever you need. Please stay hydrated. Obviously, I like watching your faces just because I like you, and it's nice to see your smiles and the faces you make at me and all of that. But it's not a requirement, for you to entertain me while I do this. So, do it your way. Do it horizontal, vertical, or all of those types of things. There may be prompts that we go into that you're like, there's no way there's nothing on that today. Like, there's nothing for me here around that. And that is not particularly evidence of anything except for that prompt's not prompting you towards anything. There may be prompts that I give that spark something else that you want to dig into or look at, and that is all perfect. So I'll give, it's like them if you go bowling. Can I say that word properly? Not boiling, bowling. Um, and they put little bumper things up, right? And so it just helps guide the ball, right? So I'm just going to put the bumper things up, but you can respond in what gets sparked in you and where you need to go. Okay, so there's not, there's no one's, either everyone's getting an A or there are no A's to get, however you need to think about it, whichever student you are, right? So either everyone's got an A already, everyone's gold stars, or that is not even part of what you need to worry about. I am quite excited to be moving this work out more publicly. Some of you have done this with me in masterminds and mystery school work, and it feels really fun to think about inviting this sort of orientation towards the way we live. And everything I'm offering is just an orientation, an invitation to orient our life. I think that our focus is one of the biggest resources we have and one of the least focalized resources we use, and that we tend to spend our focus each day in lots of ways that end up creating our life sometimes in ways that we didn't mean for it to, and having us in stories about ourselves and all of these types of things. And there's, of course, the direct focus, which can come from our cognitive self and our little laser pointed, hyper fixated eyes. And then there's a lot of other foci inside of our system, inside of our subconscious and unconscious and preconscious and autonomic and habitual and all these other parts of ourselves. And so this is a chance to invite ourselves to get some of those different parts all on the same page so that we're moving in the current together and maybe a little less scattered in ourselves. So with that, we're going to drop in with just a few breaths. So however you'd like to do it, seated, standing, in a headstand, that helps you drop in to this moment in your body, in your space. And just as an orienting point across the timeline, I'm going to say where I am in time and space, which is it's August 1st at 11:06 that we're anchoring this energy. And so that's just a little bit of an energetic anchor point so that as we come back into this container, as you would come back to this work over the next 6 weeks or so, your timeline knows where to find it. Mm, beautiful. So your first prompt that I want you to engage with is to gander about your space, or maybe even take a little walk through your house. And without overthinking, and maybe with no thinking, if you could go there, just allow yourself to find an item, an object. It can be across the board in terms of like, what does object mean? It means anything. It means anything that you could gaze upon, hold in your hands, touch, or be with in some way. And just find an item. Find the item that calls to you. Without worrying about why would I pick this as an anchor item? Why would this image, the symbol, this whatever? So if you want to take a few moments, maybe walk around your house, if you're in your temple space or by your altar, or just see what calls you. Maybe head to a jewelry box, head to a spice cabinet, just see what invites you to, what raises its hand and says, I would like to be part of this next season with you. I'll just give you a moment. I'll maybe put on a little song so I don't run away.
The holy name, Sophia, oh Sophia, Maria, oh Maria, Sophia, oh Sophia,
Okay. So I think some people are still traveling around their houses looking for things. So we'll slow here, but I'll just begin to talk again. So if you're here live and you want to share in the chat what item called to you for this next season. And I just want you to get curious. Just start being curious. Not what does it mean? No. But what does it invite? And what might it be inviting you towards, either as the lead to be transformed into the gold, or the gold that's been transformed from the lead? So just getting curious about your item and just noticing, is it leaning you towards the beginning of your process of like, oh, here is something that's about the transformation? Or is it showing you, oh, here is something about the completion of that transformation? And you may not know yet. You may not know until the end of the season exactly what it was inviting, and that's perfect. So I have a white owl leading me towards sacred leadership. Gorgeous, gorgeous. Yeah. And sometimes the symbols, the items that kind of raise their hand are things we've worked with before, and sometimes it's something really completely new. I just see some people typing, so I'm going to pause for a moment. And it's perfectly okay just to be in the curiosity and the not knowing what this relationship is even about. Oh, a stone elephant, oil incense burner. Beautiful. Beautiful. Quartz stone leading me to resonate more deeply with my soul's call. Gorgeous. Oh, the stone elephant's what you use when you with your first awakening. Yes, yes. Moonstone bracelet guiding me into crystalline clarity and more fully engaging with third eye center and the energy of the Morrigan. Nice. Moss agate crystal. I think it wants to journey. Things are moving. I think it wants a journey through ending to a beginning. Nice. Fuchsia flower leading me to vibrancy, beauty, being seen, heard, flowering, creation. Gorgeous. Wire tree with gems, grounding and uplifting. Nice. A very prickly cactus. Oh, nice. Staying with the curiosity for now. Nice, 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 nice. I love it. I love it. Yeah. So as we go through this process, even more items, both tangible and more abstract, imagetic, may raise their hand to be part of your attunement, of your anchoring. I find that having at least one tangible thing, one thing that you can see daily, that possibly can move with you, that you can hold, that has some sort of real materiality is very helpful. A lot of the work we do in container work is energetic. And so having at least something, even if it's a printed or drawn picture, that can be helpful too, but something that helps to anchor you. We are 3D beings as much as we sometimes want to get lofty and, pretend that living as our 5D selves would mean that we don't concern ourselves with materiality. But I think the point is to actually really be co-creative with materiality. And so we also don't want to shy away. As you can even just see from my what's behind me, and obviously most of you know me pretty well, I'm a maximalist. Um, and so I like stuff, right? So my altars are always usually very overflowing. There's multiple altars, all of those types of things. That is not necessary, but I do find that it is helpful to have something that roots us, and that we tend. A spiral with a flame at a threshold, gorgeous, leading me toward my true path while burning away what no longer serves me and what I have put in my way. Gorgeous, gorgeous, beautiful, beautiful. Such insight and beauty coming forward already. Fantastic. All right. I'm going to put my headphones in and we'll drop in a little deeper. Okay. If you want to get comfortable, if you are able to hold your item, if you want to do that, that is very nice. If not, no problems, no worries. Need to switch my sound. Hang on. That music? You hear my voice over it? Beautiful. Okay. Can soften your gaze. Close. Just begin to draw the breath in through the nose and out the mouth with a big sigh, a big moan, a little bit of a yawn. And just letting yourself arrive to an image inside of you or a sensation inside of you. And knowing inside of you that we are at a threshold. And of course, the most common or well-known symbol of a threshold is a door. And what the actual threshold part of the door is, it's the crossing at the bottom. And so as we arrive to this liminal space of our own crossing, that one step might actually be hundreds of tiny steps, thousands of micro adjustments and realizations to move through the crossing. And of course, in our linear thing, get it done, moving on to the next thing, organization of self, we want to get to the other side as quick as possible. But here, at least in this session, we're going to linger in the crossing. perhaps even luxuriate in it, revel in this space of the liminal. Not quite where I was, but not fully to where I'm going. Because inside this liminal space is where all potential lives. This is where we enter the void, the fertile void, the place where all things can begin, shift, place where the particle returns to wave, where form becomes formless, where intention begins to pulse. And this human body, this beautiful vessel, this chalice that you are, was designed as a magnet. And as you open yourself, as you soften yourself, as you surrender into this place of the liminal, the essence of yourself, as it pulses you, begins to call to other aspects in this formless potential, to be drawn to you for creation, for experience, for manifestation. But that means on every level of self, we're drawing forth. And so the first thing we're going to do as we come into this space of crossing is to think about what we don't want to cross with, what we leave at the edge of the threshold, what shall no longer be moving with us. And so just beginning to drop back into the good pace for yourself. Breathing from root to crown. Bring in the back body. Opening the bottoms of your feet. Just allow yourself to choose the state that your body will be in for release, for letting go, for completing the harvest. This doesn't mean you'll control the emotions or that things won't come up to be felt and met. But what will hold you? A gaze of compassion, an acceptance of self, maybe an acknowledgement that you hate endings, but you're willing to be here. Curiosity, gratitude. And before we write anything down or think about anything cognitively, just energetically feel yourself beginning to unpack, let go, release, complete. There's a tradition we have in Celtic pilgrimage to carry rocks with us along the journey. And many, if not all, of our pilgrimage sites on the Celtic Isles of us arriving first to a place of water. And as we arrive to this place of water, we begin to weigh our rocks and decide which ones will be cleansed and continue on towards ritual, and which rocks will be released into the water. And so, again, without checking on what any of these rocks or pebbles are or what they mean, just feel yourself releasing to the water what's ready to be released, what's completion, what won't move forward. This image of tossing, laying into the water, the rocks, and just practice as you're imagining, as you're sensing, as you're allowing, that you're also returning to that anchor state of the body, whether it was gratitude or willingness, forgiveness, even grief, whatever you need to be as a state right now to allow this harvesting. And just take 3 more breaths right here. Nice and intentional, full cycle. And then just give yourself a purely human moment to have a little outburst about endings. I hate them. I don't like this. Oh, I never feel like it's enough. I want to fix it all. I'm afraid to let go. I'm afraid something that I love will leave. If you need to have a little physical outburst, you can shake your fist or roll your shoulders or stomp your feet or give yourself that moment to be human inside of all of it. Living into our fuller, deeper, wider, wiser, and wilder self does not mean the human parts don't come along. It means they actually come along beautifully because we make so much space to honor the human aspects of the journey. One of the biggest parts about this human journey that we try to ignore is that loss and completion and death and letting go are natural. And your feelings about them are natural. It's your clinging, it's your denial, it's your fear of feeling, the letting go becomes the sabotage. So give yourself one more moment of feeling, saying, being what you need to right here. And if you love endings, just relish in that. And if you hate endings, just acknowledge yourself in that. Okay. And then from this place, you're just going to start talking or writing what is completing now, what is being let go of. What does this crossing call into completion? What don't I carry forward? Hmm. All right, you're welcome to keep going with that. I'm going to say a few more things here. I'll do a little check-ins with our releasing, back a few more onion layers. Look back, think back, feel back onto what you're releasing, and just notice if there's a particular tone of it. Like, where do you immediately go? Are you someone who immediately goes towards releasing in the emotional body, releasing in more of the energetics of something? Do you go towards your personality, your patterning? Do you go towards your behaviors? Just noticing the first place or the majority of what you tend to focus on. And so for just a moment, focus in a different direction. So if you tend to focus on your behaviors, check in with feeling states, check in with bodily stuff, check in on more of the emotional, energetic level. If you tend to go for more of the energetics and the emotions, check in on actions, on more tangible places. If you tend to go only in towards relationships, check in with self. If you only did self, check in with relationships, right? So check in on a different direction moment and just notice if there's a bit more. And if you just imagined our whole experience here, what you're doing is you're just out at your apple tree and you're just, or your cherry tree or some fruit tree, and you're just noticing. Did you go for the low hanging fruit or did you climb all the way to the tippy top of the tree and you ignored all the fruit at the bottom? And again, just kind of notice your habit. Just let yourself check in with yourself. So some of us, I imagine a lot of those of you who land in my containers, you climbed up the top of the tree into the very like hardest place to reach. Like that's where you went, right? Which is fantastic. But there was like a lot of fruit that you passed along the way that was ready to come off the tree. So let's just check the other parts of our tree. So what are maybe some of the low hanging fruits that are really ripe that we tend to pass over completion? That we sort of call, well, it's kind of on the vine and ripe, sometimes even rotting. We're like, that's good enough, right? Like it's like actually pull it off the freaking tree. Okay. So just kind of checking in on those places too, that it's like, what's really, really done? And this can be a lot of things that have already happened in your life that you're just not quite fully acknowledging to yourself as this is complete, right? So just kind of do a comb through. Maybe there's relationships over the last season, whatever you're calling that, whatever it feels right, that are like ending. Maybe there's jobs that have shifted. Maybe there's things that you've left and completed. Maybe there's projects that you did. And we really need to honor and acknowledge like this is now complete. Okay. So just do another comb through and see if there's other things that you haven't fully acknowledged to yourself. This seasonal crossing. Maybe you acknowledged it in the moment. Maybe you just kind of moved right through it. If you were to sum up this last season, again, whatever that is for you, whether it's the last 6 weeks, which would have been solstice, which both feels like it happened yesterday and was also 16 years ago. So, depending on which feeling states of time that you're in, could have been like, wow, that was the fastest season ever. I don't know where June or July went. And also, it's like, wait, can I remember who I was 6 weeks ago? What would you sum up this season? You could also, another kind of natural. So, naturally, where's your body marking seasons? The two places that are most natural in what your body is holding right now around your season are going to be that 6 week mark. So, that would be the solstice to now, and the 6 month mark. So, that's kind of February till now. So, those are the two places that our body is most tracking as season, just because of the way. Just because of the way time works in the nervous system. Okay. So you could think about that. You also could choose to sort of open up the season if you've been in a different type of time frame, if you've been in a 3 year cycle, a 7 year cycle, a 24 year cycle, all of those types of things. But just thinking about how would you sum up? What is your summation sentence about this last season? Um, as if you were starting, as if this was the first sentence of a book. She arrived at the end of her blank season. And what are the three things that you most want to honor or celebrate this completion? And some of us have an interesting relationship with celebration, right? And so, what I want to acknowledge is that sometimes celebration at these completions doesn't feel like a woohoo, yay, good job, right? It feels like a oh my goodness. It feels like wow, I went through that. I really honor myself for like making it through walking on a bed of nails every single day for 18 months. I really acknowledge myself for sitting inside this fire while it burned and burned and burned, right? While I really honor myself for like every time I thought that there was nothing else life could take from me, I woke up the next day to another loss and was like, wow, here we go again, right? So it doesn't have to feel like celebration is a woo woo rah rah. So celebration is this ability to honor and acknowledge and really allow ourselves to find ourselves inside of it, to be in the wow, and yes, I did that. Yes, I made it through. Yes, I am here. And then there also can be things that you are so in that wellspring of pride or joy or effervescence about. That is also, of course, welcome. If you're here live and you want to put any of those things in, so we could witness each other in that. If you are someone who is a bit like me, who might want to always fix the things before you celebrate, right? So it's like, well, I didn't quite do that. I only did it 80%. And I only give myself a B minus on that assignment of my life, right? Notice if we could allow that B minus to still be celebrated, right? So all of our perfectionist parts that might hold us back from this fullness of the completion, from the allowance of a celebration around it because it wasn't enough. It's not good enough. I didn't get a full 100% on it. And also, yeah, that's as I have to tell my students again and again and again, depending on what this class is, sometimes a D is good enough. Sometimes a D is good enough. Let's just get the D and move on, right? Mm. She arrived at the end of her accepting less than she deserved season. I am excited for her to arrive at the end of that season. All right, celebrating for the past 6 weeks, the most consistent I've been in moving and strengthening my body, also opening into new expression with my Irish singing in public. Beautiful. Sometimes the D is perfection. It's so true. It's so true. I celebrate my willingness to keep my heart open, my willingness to relate to responsibility in a new way, ability to touch and find mind, touch and mind the micro moments of joy and levity throughout. She arrived at the end of her managing everyone else's emotional experience season. Yes, I'm also excited for her to arrive at the end of that season. These are good. These are good completion seasons. Yes. 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 Mm. This was the season where she claimed what she wanted, what she truly wanted, being present with all the feelings that came with it and holding her boundaries through the transition. Yes, yes, yes. Celebrating that. Mm, mm. The end of the season feels like ash under my feet and so much skin that feels newly healed, tender, and pink. Celebrating the fact that I've never received support as fully as I am right now. Yeah, just. Mm. Celebrate my presence to myself through it all, birthing my creative genius, living in flow, and the acceptance and wisdom of rupture. Beautiful, beautiful. I'm going to put on a short song and invite you to. I'm going to give two suggestions. You could come up with 17 more. What I'm going to invite is this place of honoring and celebrating is that you just begin to intuitively move your body. And that like might look like, feel like a bit of a dance. And again, you could stay in your chair, you could get up, you could lay on the floor, or that you draw, again, moving your body, but just intuitively receiving the completion onto the page as something. And of course, I always invite those to be through the non-dominant hand, if you choose. You might do a little bit of both. You could paint into space with the paper. End of the season where I let more of my true rhythm guide my days. Gorgeous. Beautiful, beautiful. Okay, just take a moment where you'd like to move this into a little bit of form or symbol, whether it's onto the page or through the body, being with the breath as you do that. There might even be sound that wants to move through as part of the body moving. What does this completion feel like? It's movement. And just bringing your hands to your body, maybe hand to heart and to belly. And if there's words you feel like you'd like to whisper to yourself, any more acknowledgement, more letting go for now. It's pretty wildly courageous, both when something is fully ripe to allow it to move into its next version of life, especially when something's died on the vine and we need to set it free, let it loose. All the seeds that we started tending that we thought would come to fruition, and for whatever reason, for all the reasons, they have not, and will not, and cannot, and do not. And so we're going to begin to take a walk through ourselves and our lives and notice even more deeply things that we have assumed because they always have been there, because we just really, 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 really want to keep it. Or because we are trying to force something. Let's just check in on all the parts of our life, the parts of ourselves, and see if there are other things that will not come through the crossing. These may be things that are the hardest to let go of because they may not feel as if they've run their full course in the way we think they should have. Or the fruit feels stunted, the bud that never opened, the seed that never fully rooted. And so let's clean up the field. This is also a place to check in on all the things you said you were going to do that you have not done. Whether that was projects or practices or ways of being or decisions. And rather than leaving them as open tabs, let's complete them. Let's close out all of those spaces. And if that needs to have a bit of forgiveness and the cleanest and clearest way to know where we're called next is to let go as much as we can at this. And can we X these things out? Can we call them to completion without a lot of justification, a lot of bargaining? And this is also the place that I want you to acknowledge to yourself the truths you've been sticking your head in the sand around, that you keep trying to bop out of your field about where completion is leading you, where you've tried to be in charge of the timing rather than surrendering to the current. And this can bring up some stuff, so discharge as you need to. You can go back to some moving of your body, some speaking, some writing, some drawing. Into the back corners of the closets, place where the cobwebs persist on getting. Maybe up into the attic, down into the basement, the parts that you think, oh, we'll just box it up again and take it to the next house and deal with it there. Anybody else? those boxes that you've been carrying for across states or countries, and it's time to let it go. Mm. And then one last place of completion or letting go. And this requires the most faith, most trust, because this is going to be the place where we acknowledge the release, the letting go of all the things we don't know are going to have to be let go, just the edge on the other side of the crossing. Because we remember here that every yes requires the opposite no. So when I say, or when we get there, right, when I say, oh, this season I will focus on grace, that the next step that comes may not be the full flood of grace into my life. It may be the completion and the letting go of everything that blocks grace in my life. So even though we haven't made that declaration yet, what we're going to do right now is drop into that next letting go that will be on the other side of the crossing. Because this is the place where we fuck ourselves again and again and again. And the reason that word grace came up is, and I'm looking at Rose right on my screen, because this was a conversation she and I literally had many years ago, where she was like, it's grace. That's the word, I think it was her word of her year, or something that we were doing. And then in our next call, she's like, it's been everything, not grace. Right. And that place where we had to go, that's right, right? Because the oil and the water has to separate. And so there is this place that there is another. We release here at the beginning of the crossing. And then there will be another place where you will experience another letting go. And so often the reason we fuck ourselves there is because that feels disempowering. And it feels like that's not what I meant and that's not what I wanted. And so we start arguing with reality there. And we backtrack and we go into clinging and we go back into the aspect because we've not built the faith with life and with our higher self to say, oh, if it's going, I guess it's going. And I guess at that point that comes up, my opinion about it doesn't matter. My feelings matter. I can have all the feelings I need to. I can have the tantrum. I can have the meltdown. I can have the moment of like feeling like really freaking sad and sorry for myself. I can have all of that. But my opinion about it and my need to cling and control do not serve. Okay. So, what I want you to do is to think about your habit in those places where life shows up and you feel, I didn't choose this. You did. And it's for you, but it may not feel that way in the moment. And what's the experience that you don't let yourself have there? Is it that you need to have the meltdown and you need to come into a bit of cocoon right here and rock and moan and say it's not it because this can bring up a lot of little kid parts, right? Our inner child where it's like, oh, I feel like I'm in trouble. I feel like I'm being told I was doing it wrong, and that's why this loss is coming up, or that's why this change is coming up. Or I thought I was going to get this thing and now it feels like I'm not, right? So like letting yourself have that. If is it that you need to stand up and shake and go towards fight? Right? Is it that you need to give this space of freeze where you're like, oh, and what this requires is for me to pause and to rest and to open up so that reorganization can move wisely through me without me clenching and controlling. Okay, so again, I'm just going to put a song on. We're going to be here for just a few moments, but I want you to give yourself that space. So we're practicing ahead of time. We're consciously engineering what we're going to do on the other side. And if you're not sure, have a little bit of all. Have a bit of a tantrum, have a bit of a breakdown, have a bit of an opening up, right? Have a bit of a like, you're doing fine. Like, have a bit of a pep talk, like whatever you might need on the other side, right? Give yourself a little taste of all of it. We're practicing so that our body can have something to follow, right? So also a way that you might practice it is like, what do I want to choose in those moments? Do I want to choose that space where I can cocoon? So I could come into a little bit of a flee, could leave it for a moment, but I leave it consciously in the way that I'm finding something deeper in myself to root into, rather than sending my fleeing out of myself. I'm fleeing deeper into a root. Right? Maybe it is more of a freeze moment where you're like, actually, this is a good place to pause and soften into an opening. I learned to back float right here. Right? Or is it a bit of a fight? I need to move the energy. I need to like let myself really be with it. I need to maybe find some fuller cathartic expression of moving through something that I stay rooted to myself, right? So we're going to give ourselves the moment to practice, even before we know what that release or that completion or that loss or that redirection is going to be on the other side, right? 3 minutes, 3 minutes of practice in any direction or in several directions that you might need. Do you have any fire or water that you want to use as we complete releasing for now? Megan is also prepared to release anything for you into either fire, or if you want to put anything into the chat and let her know which element you'd like to be releasing into. Embellish. Which our cameras, Megan, I'll put you on. So we just take this song. If you have anything you want Megan to release into fire, if you want to, I don't know if you can your camera down. Is your air, and she's got water. And so she'll do one of each for all of us. So anything that's not directly written is fine. It's on her intentional paper for the whole group. And so you can feel that. But if there are specific things you want her to do for you, let her know in the chat. Water and then move to the fire. And just checking in with yourself, that state that you wanted to be in as you released. You breathe that in a bit more. Releasing compromise and performing into the water. Mm. Releasing suppression and disrespect. I go into the fire. Mm. Into the water. Let's also release the places where, yeah, the freeze and the oh, that's into the fire. Let's release into the water some of the freeze around our hearts and throats. Block the flow in and out. Releasing fighting against time into the water. Oh, please, yes. Surrendering to the current. Mhm. Releasing outsourcing authority and performing for praise to the water. Releasing the moments of belief when external overrides internal into the water. Into the water. Beautiful. Just feeling those papers dissolve. And you can't quite, there's a lot of rose petals, which are beautiful in there, but the paper does dissolve in the waters. That really does go. Releasing the rushing and the second guessing. Hurling weight, a boulder, my gut, womb, and a stone in my throat. And the freeze of the right shoulder into the water. Releasing grief for dreams that had to die. Releasing the fear of our own tears, of our own water into the water. Releasing the fear of being well nourished, well watered in our own grounds, the way we've subscribed to scarcity and droughting to stay in survival. Beautiful. And anything and everything else that goes into the water, thank you, it goes into the water now. Yeah, releasing baby Cassie's soul into the water. Yeah. Yes, thank you for casting. Mm, beautiful. Great. And that will get offered to the direction of the west. And then to the fire. The fire moves to the fire. Okay. Releasing the suppression, the settling, the disrespect. Releasing the freeze and overwhelm. Oh, yeah. Trying to control the unknown. And worthiness of our matriarchal lines. The keeping small, the not taking space to survive. The fear or worry. Releasing dimming, downplaying, smallness. Releasing the fear of how we're perceived, projected upon. Releasing the habit that we had to take on of protecting our reputations, which just relates to the fear of being burned or killed again, being seen and heard. We are releasing holding it all in, holding it all together, releasing the expectations of others, releasing the need to have it all figured out before we began, releasing the fear of our own rising that keeps us from burning all the way through, releasing being braced all the time, releasing chains holding my belly in, the bigness, my work, words into the fire, prostituting my energy and my time, releasing the fear of our power, the fear that we have been conditioned into again and again and again that blocks us from seeing and working with and becoming trustworthy with the true power each of us are. Releasing the fear of the impact we're here to make in the world. Through our sight, through our knowing, through our creations. Releasing chasing patterns in all. Releasing the perfectionist, releasing the critic, releasing the distractions, especially the ones that look so righteous, so polite, so worthy to everybody else, that are the fucking distractions from what we're really here to do. Releasing the fear of doing it our way, not the way of the shoulds, the supposed tos, the 5-step blueprinted bullshit, sold for $22, just get it here now versions of the work. Mm. Go ahead and begin to use your voice in these last moments of releasing. So letting whatever sounds, whatever keens, whatever moans, whatever howls, whatever proclamations, whatever protestations want to move through you right now, let it come out as sounding. Beautiful. The herbs are going into the fire. And at a more traditional fire ceremony, we would begin here to run our bodies and the bodies of our animals through the smoke. You just imagine we're on land together and that this bonfire that we've started, this huge fire that we've created to be with, is both the release and the activating. And here we begin to move our bodies through the smoke. We move the bodies of our animals, everyone on the replay, fire for you, releasing the fear of living and our creative genius, moving our bodies through the smoke. Move your body, move your sound. Let the smoke work upon you. If you have fire in your own space that you're working with, moving the smoke, moving yourself through the smoke. Recognizing all the work that you have done, all the choices that you've had to make over and over and over again to get to this place of being safe enough to let it go. Being choiceful enough, present enough, strong enough to let go. Because this is serious courage and strength to be here at the edge of the liminal, releasing as much as you are. And even when that fear of the unknown is there, being able to find the faith and the trust that your soul knows this space of letting go. And your body was designed as a magnet for what's coming next. And so again, some sounding coming out of your voice. Ra. Oh. And then just taking some breaths here, feeling yourself in this opening, this letting go. We don't often allow ourselves to linger in the emptiness. So maybe a little bit of shaking here, a little bit of rocking, a little bit of hip swirling. There's a lightness with the emptiness that we have forgotten how to feel safe in, that we've forgotten is okay. Not knowing is okay. As what you can start to predict begins to shift. Oh, I can predict I'm going to take a breath. Oh, I can predict that it feels nice and juicy when I roll my hip. I can predict that when the wave comes, I will choose how to ride it. So letting yourself here at the edge just begin to find a few things that the predicting self can anchor into that still allow the liminal to be there, but to find anchor and trust. So these could be, it would be great to have one that is somatic based, like I can find my breath, I can predict breath. I can predict a movement. I can predict feeling my feet if I focus there. Something that we can predict about time in the larger aspect. Oh, I could predict that the sun will rise in the morning. I can predict that night's going to come again. And then predicting something that feels a little ironic or of course. Like for a mama, you might be like, I can predict I'm gonna have a butt to wipe today, right? For all of us, I can predict I'm gonna lose something today. Likely my wallet, my keys, my sunglasses, a notebook, and predict that. So predict something that is a little ironic or funny to you about yourself, or one of those things that has a rhythm in your life that is like, yep, this is me being a mundane human just doing the things. I can predict that I'm gonna get hungry. I'm gonna predict that as soon as I leave the house, I'm gonna need to go to the bathroom. And then do anything else that you'd like to do to tend your safety before we drop into the breath work. That could be tending environmental safety, physical safety. What helps you to feel supported? What's going to help you to feel able to go through our crossing? We'll do with the breath. And just so our videos don't take forever to process, I'm gonna go ahead and pause or stop this recording, and I'll start again as we're ending our safety and setting up our breathwork space, taking a little bathroom break, whatever you might need to do. And then we'll come back.